Hello, in this basic intro video I'm going to show you how to find some basic summary statistics, some basic plots and graphs using Stata, some of the very basics. In order to do this, I have a basic data set, fictional data set I've entered. If you want to see what that data is, if you don't have that already, if you haven't watched the previous video, then you can look at it here and copy it. The way to just look at data is to hit Browse. So I'm going to type in Browse. You could also find Browse right here by clicking on that button, or by using Data Editor, Browse right there. By the way, Stata is case sensitive, so you don't want to type that in with a capital B. That allows me to look at the data. Okay, so I've got it here so that it can be seen. All right, or you could instead have typed edit. If I just type browse like this, I can't go in and like type over and change anything. If instead I had typed edit, it opens and now I can type over and change it. So look at my previous video on Stata Basics to see how I entered this and set this all up. But this is my basic data set that I'm going to be using in this video. So what I want you to see here is that we've got listed the variable names over here. Okay, I've got a history of what I did. This says that this is from opening the data set. This command opens a particular data set and it leaves that command there. Browse and edit. Now, one of the basic things to be aware of is that over here is a history of my commands. You'll see it's also here. In each case, I'll have the command and then any output that's associated with that results. There's not any for each of these, so it doesn't show anything there. But typically there will be. Let's say that I want to do something again. I want to do browse again. I could type in browse or use the features here or up here, or I could just click on a command I already ran because I've already done this one. Click on it. You notice when I click on that here, it pops up down here, okay? Or if I click on that one, pops up down here. Whatever I click on this side pops up in my command window. That's useful so I don't have to type in the command again, or if I want to start with a command used before and just slightly edit it. So what I'll do then is click down after the command, edit it if I need to, which of course I would not in this case. Hit enter, the browse window pops back up. We're not really doing anything with that, so I'll go ahead and close it. Now what I'm going to do is just look at some basic summary statistics. For an interval ratio variable, we typically will use look at mean, standard deviation, and so forth. And the easiest way to do that is with a command called sum, which is short for summarize. Most commands in Stata you can shorten using just the first three letters of the command. So the command is summarize. We'll shorten it using sum. So we're going to look at the summary statistics for pre-test and post-test. Now, again, we could type it in using sum. It is also possible to use it with the drop-downs. To do that, I'd go to Statistics, Summaries, Tables, and Tests. This is where all the basic intro stat level things are. Summary and descriptive statistics, summary statistics. So I've got to go through all those drop-downs. When I click on it, a window pops open. Here, most of these pop-downs look very similar. What I'll do is I'll just select the particular variable or variables that I want to look at summary statistics for. Okay, again, the command summarize. This over here gives me this by if in allows me to limit and say, for example, I want you to give me summary statistics by gender, or only if gender is female, okay, or in or is in some range. We're not going to deal with that at this point. Weights allows you to deal with like sampling weights and so forth. And this gives me some options down here. The standards display some additional statistics and so forth. Some features of it. So I can click OK. I click OK, and you see the command pops here. That's the full command. We could have just used sum if we were typing it out, the name of the variable. The format for commands in Stata is typically command name first, name of the variable. So what you see here by default, the most basic default use of the summarize command gives me the name of the variable here, gives me the number of observations. So if there was some missing data, it would reflect that. It would have fewer observations. Mean, standard deviation, min, and max. That's the default. Okay? And I want you to notice here, okay, we see the command, we see the results. Up here we see just the command. Okay? And again, that becomes useful if I want to repeat this. Click on it, I see some pretest. Well, now I want to do the same command but with, say, post-test. I can just erase the name of the variable and type in the name of the new variable. So it allows me to save a little bit on typing. Okay, click enter, and I see this come up here. And I could have just typed in again the same thing, just with some, the first 3 letters, whichever one I wanted to do, gives me the same results. Okay, so that's just a shortened version of summarize. It gives me this the basic summary statistics here. Okay, so I look at that for whatever I'm looking for, maybe looking to make sure there's not any outliers, any coding issues, anything that's a concern here. Then the next thing I might do is I might say, well, I really want more information than that. Well, if I type in some, excuse me, keep it all lowercase, pre-test, and I put comma detail, in Stata, always, you have the basic command, if you have any options, they come after a comma. So the typical format, the most common format is, there is command, name of variable or variables, maybe you have several of them, comma, and then any options. In this case, I have this option. Detail, meaning I want some more detailed summary statistics. I hit enter, and you'll see here, see this is where the command was, everything after it. You'll see that it gives me percentiles, okay? It gives me the observations, the mean, standard deviation. Now I also have the variance, the skewness, and the kurtosis. So if you want the skewness and kurtosis, this is a fast, easy way to get it, is by using the summarize command with comma detail after it to get that information. So I've got all that here for this particular variable. Now I could do more than one variable at a time. I don't have to do it one at a time. So let me click on this one again so it pops up. If after pre-test I type in post-test, okay, make sure you get all the capitals right because it is case sensitive. Click enter. Now it's going to run both of them. So you see the command here, it ran this and then it ran this down here. Okay, one after another. So you can get do as many variables as you want at one time. It's also possible if you do it without the detail, because it's more concise results, so it'll put all in one table. So let's do that. I'm going to just type in some. Now another way that I could do besides typing the variable names in is I can come over here, double click, you see it pop down here, go to the next one, double click, you see it pop down there. That's another way to do that. Let me show you yet another way. I'll delete those. You can click and drag, okay? Or I can click on one, go to the last one that I want included, shift click so that it highlights all of them, click and drag, and it'll drag all of them at the same time. So that's another way that you can do this. Hit enter, and what we see here is a table with the results for both in one table. And of course I didn't do that up here with a detail because there were too many results to put it in one concise table, so you basically have a table for each variable that's happening instead. Okay, now for our categorical variable, which is gender. Of course we don't want to look at mean, median, all those things. We don't look at those things. What we want to look at is a table of counts typically for that. So to do that, we can use the tab command, which is short for tabulate. Okay, tab, and then I'm going to put in gender. Various ways to get that variable in there. I'll just double click on it. Pops down here. Okay, tabulate gender. And what you see here is student gender, males, females, the frequencies. Okay, the percent, cumulative percent. So I get this basic table here which I would want to do with each of my categorical variables. The other thing I might want to look at with category variables, instead of tab, I might want to use the Codebook Command. What the Codebook Command does is it's very much, it gives you these same frequencies, but it also tells you exactly what your coding is, your value coding. For example, maybe I don't remember whether it's 0 male, 1 female, or 1 male, 2 female. Those are two common schemes used. So Codebook will tell you that. I hit it in, and what do I see here? I see 1 male, 2 female. Okay, so I've got the frequencies, and I also have the coding. So this is often useful to you as a researcher, while this format often looks nicer for like publication, and of course it also gives you the percents and so forth. So it depends on your use, but both of those are things that can be very helpful. Okay. The other basic thing I want to do often looking at my data is simple plots. Okay, so Stata provides a variety of basic simple plots, like most statistical software does. So whenever you have a categorical variable, what you typically want to look at is a bar chart or bar graph. Whenever you have a continuous variable, what you typically want to look at is a histogram. Okay, that's most common as far as a plot that just looks at one variable by itself. Okay, so if we want to do that, what we're going to do is, let's start off with the the continuous variables, the pretest and potest, so that's a little bit easier. Histogram is a fairly easy, straightforward command to do a basic histogram. It's hist, short for histogram. You can also find it down here, okay, in the drop downs, but that's actually more time consuming to use. It's easier to just keep track of the commands and do it quickly. And then I type in the name of the variable, or double click it here, click and drag, however you want to deal with that. So I type it in, and you wait. Sometimes there's a little delay depending on how quick your computer is. Sometimes mine's kind of slow right at the moment. Okay, so what I've got is a very basic histogram here for math test to look at. There's a lot of options here to customize the graph. You can make it look a variety of ways. This is just a really basic one for the moment. Okay, I'm not going to go into details of graphics, but just show you some real basics here. The next thing we might want to do is look at histogram of the post test, because that's also continuous. And there we go. This is a histogram of our post test results. Okay, so you can look at whatever it is you're wanting to look for in this. Maybe you want to look for the shape of the distribution. Maybe you want to look for potential outliers visually. Whatever it is you want to do, you can get quickly from that histogram. So that's your typical one-way plot you do for a continuous or interval ratio variable. For your categorical variable, which is your nominal, ordinal, then you will typically do a bar chart. Okay, now if you were to just type in hist, gender, okay, it looks a little bit funny if you do that by mistake. What it does is, instead of saying male under 1 bar, female under 1 bar, it treats it like those are numeric values, okay? And it looks a little bit funny, the scale down here. It's not what you want to do. What you want to do is the correct, plot, which is a bar chart. Okay, so in order to do a bar chart, the command looks like this. Okay. Basically, you turn that graph, the kind you want to do is a bar, and it has the option here, you've got to add the bar chart over gender. It's a little bit cumbersome to remember. Okay. But using the drop downs isn't necessarily more convenient in this case. It's a little confusing in its own way. The best thing to do is take notes on how to do it. If you need to, you can use the drop downs, but sometimes that's a little, requires a little knowledge and fiddling as well. Okay. So what we've got is male, female, and the percent. So that's my bar chart. It just how it happened. I ended up with equal number of males and females. Okay, so that's my basic my basics there for you for conducting a bar, creating a bar chart. So histogram for the continuous variables and bar chart for the categorical variables. Now let's suppose that I want to do a simple two-way plot, okay? Let's say I want to do pre-test versus post-test, okay? You would typically do that with a scatter plot, okay? So the command for that, pretty easy to remember, is just scatter. And then I'm going to type my two variables in. Now, an important thing to remember in Stata is you always put whatever you want your y to be first. So whichever one you want on the y-axis, put first, okay? I just double-clicked on it. And my x-axis second, okay? And that's the command right there. All right, there we go. Pre-test on this axis, post-test on this axis, simple scatter plot. And again, there's all kinds of options to revise this, to refine that. If you want to get into that, there's books out there on using graphics and Stata that can be helpful. But for right now, the idea is just to look at it and maybe quickly for statistical reasons. You're looking for outliers, or does it look like there's a linear trend, or look like there's curvilinearity. You may be looking for a variety of things here, and this is just a quick plot for that. Again, sometimes your graph can be a little slow to pop up and load depending on what your processor is doing at the time and how busy it is, I guess, in non-technical words. Okay, so we've got the scatter plot done. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to look at maybe a two-way plot with gender by one of these two tests, okay? When you typically do a plot of a categorical with a continuous, okay, you want to use a box plot. That is the most appropriate one to use for that situation. So to do a box plot looks very much like the bar command, okay? Slightly different, but similar kind of format. What we're going to do is type graph box. Okay, we're going to put the name of our y variable. Remember in Stata, the y variable usually comes first or early on. And then I'm going to put comma over gender. Okay, so looks very similar. Apologize for the dog bark. Okay, so that's the basic command. Hit enter. Again, wait for it to pop up, and you see your basic box plot here. All right, where it shows you, again, the median is the middle line. You see the median for females. The middle line is actually the same as the top line here for the females. Higher median for the females, a little bigger range for the males, and so forth. It usually puts a dot for anything it identifies as a potential outlier. Whether you think it's an outlier or not is up to you. This is just based on a formula. Okay, so that's our basic graphs, summary statistics that we might use here. Okay, before I finish this video, I want to show you one more command that is often useful for summary statistics. It's a little more complicated, but it allows you to customize a little bit more what you find. The command is tabstat. Tabstat allows you to specifically list which statistics you want to be seen, to show. So let's just do it here for post-test. Tabstat post-test, okay, the comma. We're going to now give it the options, okay, and I'm going to say stat, and in parentheses, I'm going to tell what stats I want, okay. So I can list in there, maybe I want the mean, maybe I want the standard deviation, okay, maybe I want the skewness and kurtosis. Those are the things I want. And then I want to tell it that I want the columns to represent the stats. That way the rows are the names of the variables and the columns are the statistics, which are, I've got a spell typo here, are most often what you want to see. Okay, hit enter, and what you see is post-test. I see the mean, the standard deviation, the skewness, and the kurtosis. Okay, so I've got that for post-test. Well, maybe I really want a table that shows it both for pre and post-test. So I'm going to click on this command to pop it back up, and I'm going to add in here pre-test. I can give it more than one variable. I'll leave the rest the same. Okay, hit enter, and what you see is a condensed table that has all of those basics in it. It's a little harder to remember how to do this than it is the basic sum command or summarize command or sum with a detail option, but it is something that allows you to make a more concise, pretty table, that shows exactly what you want to for some project.